Have you ever walked away from a conversation wondering, why do I feel smaller than when it started? Have you ever said yes to something, only to ask yourself later, why did I agree to that? Have you ever felt guilty for no clear reason, or found yourself defending choices you didn't even want to make? Have you caught yourself apologizing just to keep the peace, even though you knew you weren't wrong? These aren't just awkward moments, they're often signs of something darker, quiet tactics that slip under your skin before you notice. The room is quiet now. The air feels heavy. Across from you, someone smiles, but their eyes are sharp, calculating. They tell you how much they care about you, how much they respect you. Yet every word feels like it takes a little piece of you. You agree, you nod, you even laugh at their jokes, but a strange tightness grows in your chest, like invisible ropes pulling tighter each time you speak. What if their compliments are really hooks? What if their silence is just another kind of control? In this video, we're pulling the curtain back. We're going to uncover 6 dark psychology tricks manipulators use. And one of them you've already seen this week. Maybe today. Stay with me, because once you see how these tricks work, they'll never work on you the same way again. Being manipulated doesn't feel like a war. Not at first. It feels like confusion, like walking through fog, second-guessing yourself. You find yourself lying awake at night, replaying conversations, asking, did I overreact? Was it really my fault? You feel drained, not just emotionally, but physically. Your chest feels tight in meetings. Your stomach knots at the sound of a text from them. You start to doubt your memory, your judgment, even your worth. Here's the thing. This is not weakness. This is not stupidity. It happens because these tricks are designed to feel invisible, to disarm you, to make you think their control is your idea. Why do they do it? Because manipulation gives them power without resistance. For some, it's insecurity turned into control. For others, it's learned behavior, tactics picked up from family, bosses, past relationships. And why do we fall for it? Psychology calls it cognitive dissonance, the mind's way of trying to make sense of 2 conflicting realities. Someone claims to care about you, but their actions hurt. Instead of rejecting them outright, you twist yourself into knots, trying to understand. In 2017, at Stanford, researchers observed this play out in a quiet experiment. They placed a man, let's call him David, in a room where a calm, smiling authority figure kept asking for more and more unreasonable favors. Sign this petition, donate, call these strangers. David kept saying yes, even as his discomfort grew. He later admitted, I felt like saying no would make me the bad guy, even though I didn't agree at all. You see, it's not just you. The human brain craves harmony, even if it costs you your boundaries. So let me ask you, how many times have you said yes, just to avoid feeling like the bad guy? Number 1. Love bombing and withdrawal. It begins like a sunrise. Bright, warm, intoxicating. You feel seen, chosen. Every text comes with hearts. Every word drips with admiration. They tell you no one has ever made them feel this way. Then the clouds roll in. Silence. Distance. The compliments stop. Their gaze turns cold. And you're left scanning yourself, asking, what did I do wrong? Michael, a 28-year-old from New York, met someone who showered him with love. For weeks, every morning started with good morning, handsome. Every evening ended with promises. Then, one Friday, nothing. No call, no reply, just emptiness. So he worked harder, bought gifts, sent long texts, twisted himself into someone else, trying to earn back what he thought he'd lost. This is no accident. Love bombing isn't affection, it's bait. The initial flood hooks your nervous system, makes you crave the high. Then they pull it away to make you chase them. It's like a thirsty man drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. So, ask yourself, is this warmth real or just a leash? Number 2. Projection in disguise. There's something dizzying about being accused of sins you didn't commit, especially when they say it with such conviction that you start to wonder if maybe they're right. This is projection, when they take what's lurking in their own shadow and smear it onto you. Cheating, lying, selfishness. You hear their accusations enough times, and soon you're defending yourself instead of noticing what they're actually doing. Daniel, 35, from Chicago, worked with a manager named Greg, who never missed an opportunity to call him lazy, even though Greg showed up late every day, left early, and missed his own deadlines. He would corner Daniel in meetings, saying, "Why can't you care as much as the rest of us?" Until Daniel stayed late, punishing himself for mistakes he never made. Projection works because it confuses you, fogs your judgment, and keeps you on defense. It reminds me of a dirty window. You keep scrubbing yourself clean, but the smear is on their glass, not yours. When someone accuses you, ask yourself, is this mine to carry, or is it leaking from them? Number 3. Moving the goalposts. You meet their demands. You hit the mark. You breathe for a moment, only to see the mark move farther away. You solve one problem, and another rises from the ashes. This is moving the goalposts, when nothing is ever enough, and it keeps you on a treadmill of exhaustion, chasing an approval that was never theirs to give. Ryan, 40, from Dallas, thought if he just agreed to his ex-wife's conditions, just this one last time, it would finally end. So he did. He gave up weekends, stayed silent, even bent the truth for her sake. But each time he met her needs, she invented new ones. It's like climbing a staircase that keeps adding steps, higher and higher, until you forget where you started. Maslow once wrote, "Unmet emotional needs can masquerade as ambition, but here those unmet needs masquerade as duty, guilt, even love. So look closely. If the finish line keeps moving, maybe the point was never to let you win." Number 4. Triangulation. You thought it was just between you and them, but suddenly there's a third person in the room. Not physically, but in the words they drop like stones. "Well, Tom never complains, or everyone else seems to agree with me." This is triangulation, when they use someone else as a mirror to make you feel small, jealous, or isolated. It works because it plants doubt. Maybe you are unreasonable. Maybe you are alone. Psychologists describe it as emotional splitting, turning allies into competitors, and competitors into ghosts. You can never quite catch. It's like being in a race where the other runner is invisible, yet somehow always ahead of you. Notice it next time someone casually mentions how much better someone else is. And ask yourself, are they lifting that person or lowering you? Number 5. Guilt tripping with a smile. It sounds harmless, almost sweet. After everything I've done for you, or you must not care if you feel that way. But guilt tripping is a quiet poison. It wraps itself in kindness, but tightens like a noose. You hear their disappointment in your bones. You feel like you owe them something, though you can't say what. This tactic works because we're wired to seek connection, and guilt is a powerful leash. In 2019, researchers at UCLA studied this dynamic by observing family disputes. One man, Kevin, 29, was so flooded by his mother's guilt tripping that his blood pressure spiked to dangerous levels during a single conversation. When asked why he gave in, he simply said, "It just feels easier to let her win." But easier doesn't mean better, because every time you swallow your needs to ease someone else's disappointment, you lose another piece of yourself. So the next time someone says, "If you really loved me, you'd," stop, breathe. Remember, love isn't measured in compliance. Number 6. Intellectual overload and doubt seeding. Words. So many words, arguments, wrapped in facts, contradictions, and jargon, until you're so tired, you nod, just to make it stop. This is intellectual overload, when they bury you in debate, not to seek truth, but to wear you down. You begin to doubt yourself. Maybe you misremembered. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe you just aren't smart enough to keep up. In a famous study at Yale in the 1960s, participants were bombarded with conflicting instructions from an authority figure until 80% began to obey commands that went against their morals, simply because their minds were too overwhelmed to resist. It's like being trapped in a storm of words, and you can't find the ground. When someone floods you with reasons, details, and logic, remember, clarity isn't built on confusion. You don't owe anyone your certainty just because they demand it. Louder. When someone plays these games with you, you don't just feel hurt. You feel tangled, like no move you make is the right one, but you don't need to outsmart them at their game. You need to stop playing it altogether. For love bombing and withdrawal, anchor yourself when their warmth floods you and then vanishes. Remember, their approval is not oxygen. Anchor your self-worth outside their reach. Before you respond to their sudden silence, ask, did I do something? Or did they just stop pretending? A simple rule: wait 24 hours before reacting. This breaks their cycle. For projection, return to sender. When they accuse you of their own sins, don't swallow it. Don't defend yourself endlessly. Instead, calmly say, that sounds like something you're dealing with. Let me know when you're ready to talk about it honestly. For moving the goalposts, freeze the finish line. Write down agreements. If it's personal, repeat their request back clearly and ask if that's final. If they change it later, point to the original terms. One man, Adam, started replying to his boss's ever-changing demands by saying, happy to meet your expectations. Can you confirm exactly what those are? The demands slowed. For triangulation, break the triangle. When they drag others into your conflict, don't compete with ghosts. Simply say, this is between you and me. Let's leave others out of it. Psychologists call this detriangulation. It robs the manipulator of their favorite weapon, your insecurity. For guilt tripping, shift the frame. Instead of collapsing under guilt, reframe their words. When they say, after everything I've done, you can reply, and I appreciate that, but this choice is still mine to make. In a study from the University of Michigan, participants who rehearsed phrases like this beforehand were 65% more likely to stand their ground in emotional confrontations. For intellectual overload, step out of the storm. When you're being buried in words, arguments, and doubt, stop. You don't have to win the debate. You don't even have to finish it. Say, I need time to think. We can pick this up later. This deprives them of momentum and gives you space to see clearly. You don't fight manipulation by being louder, smarter, or faster. You end it by stepping out of their script and writing your own. As Viktor Frankl, psychiatrist and survivor of unthinkable manipulation, once said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose, and in that choice is your freedom. You've just seen the quiet weapons they use. Love bombing that leaves you thirsty, projection that paints you with their sins, moving the goalposts until you forget where you began, triangulation that makes you compete with ghosts, guilt tripping that turns kindness into chains, and overload that drowns you in doubt. Each of these is subtle, deliberate, and easy to miss until you name them, and that takes courage. But now you see them. And once you see them and practice the solutions you've learned tonight, you make it harder and harder for anyone to pull your strings again. You stop being the prey. You become the one who chooses. You prove to yourself that their power was never bigger than your clarity. So here's what I want you to do. In the comments, write the name of the trick that's tangled you before, or simply say, I see it now. Your words might just help someone else see too. And next, we'll talk about why even the calmest men can erupt like storms, and what you can do before that storm breaks everything. If this video spoke to you, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. Let me leave you with this. As Aristotle wrote, the hardest victory is over oneself. And every time you name what they've done and step outside their game, that victory is already yours.